Sometimes you just get stuck trying to find the right words in English.
Right.
And we've been looking at this video, 50 common English phrases. And, it gives you this sort of like secret weapon to
Hmm.
kind of unlock all these different conversational moves.
Yeah, it's not even just the phrases themselves, though, right? It's like what I find interesting about this video is how it really focuses on how you can use them to navigate,
Mm.
like, the emotions in conversations.
Okay, so I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
So we're talking about like beyond just hello, how are you?
Mm.
It's about really understanding like how to use phrases to connect with someone on a deeper level.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's this whole section about expressing emotion and state of being, and it's about like clearly articulating how you feel, which not only helps the other person understand you, but it gives you more control of the situation as well. Like instead of snapping at someone because you're overwhelmed, you could say, I need a break.
Right.
And that can completely change the interaction.
That makes total sense. I mean, like, you're giving yourself a moment to breathe, but you're also letting the other person know where you're coming from.
Right.
So how does this video actually, like, teach these phrases?
Well, it's incredibly visual. Like they want to get the point across that, I'm exhausted is more than just tired.
Uh-huh.
So they literally show someone like dragging themselves across the floor.
Wow.
It's funny, but it definitely makes it memorable.
I'll tell you, when that video host said, let's get started, I I swear, I jumped out of my chair ready to tackle my to-do list. His energy is like, whoa.
Yeah, he's super high energy.
Yeah.
And that kind of sets the tone for this positive learning experience. The phrases themselves, they're grouped in a really smart way, too.
Yeah.
It's not just like basic greetings, but it's everything from expressing gratitude to like navigating discussions.
Well, and speaking of discussions, like, were there any examples that they gave for phrases that would help you with that? Because I'm always, I always want to participate more in conversations, but I don't want to feel like I'm like interrupting.
Definitely, yeah. So they highlighted phrases like, what do you think?
Mm.
And that's a good point. And these simple phrases, they encourage participation from others, but they also show that you're genuinely interested in what they have to say.
That's so important, especially like, nowadays it seems like everybody's always trying to talk over each other. So
Mhm.
using phrases like that really changes the dynamic
Mhm.
into something that's more, mutual respect and understanding.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a good idea of like the video style, the approach. But what about like the phrases themselves? Anything that was particularly memorable for you?
Well, what's up
Hmm.
is a classic, of course.
Sure.
But I wonder, are some of these, like, I don't know, a little dated? Do people still say that?
That's a great question. It does sound a little old school, I have to admit.
Right. And what's interesting is the video acknowledges that the way we use language is always changing.
Mm.
But even though slang changes, what these phrases are trying to do,
Mm.
connecting, expressing yourself, that never goes out of style.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like the foundation of good communication is always there, even if the exact words we're using
Yeah,
change a bit over time.
it's true.
So even if what's up isn't like the coolest slang anymore, it still serves the purpose of starting a conversation.
Exactly. Yeah. And the video even gives you like context for when it's appropriate to use certain phrases. So like what's up is clearly for informal situations, whereas something like, excuse me, is more for polite situations.
Right.
Maybe you're trying to get someone's attention or apologize for something.
Oh, and I love they had this hilarious visual for I don't understand,
Yeah.
where it's just like all these confused faces, which
Wow.
let's face it, is exactly how you feel sometimes when you're trying to follow a conversation in another language.
It's true. It's funny how a simple visual like really helps you remember the
Yeah.
phrase and understand it.
Totally. Okay, so we've talked about like expressing emotions, navigating discussions, even making sure you're using the right phrase for the right situation. Like, what other categories of phrases did you find interesting?
Well, one that I thought was really insightful was the section on making plans and keeping in touch.
Mm.
Phrases like, let's catch up soon or take care. They might seem basic,
Hmm.
but they're so important for keeping those relationships strong.
I agree. Yeah, it's like these little verbal cues that let someone know you want them in your life.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, it's so easy to let those connections just kind of slip away in our busy world.
Mhm.
And so just taking a moment to use a phrase like that, it can make all the difference. It's just like sending that little reminder like, hey, I'm thinking about you, and I want to stay in touch, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like getting those little care packages in the mail. Just a little something to brighten someone's day. Speaking of brightening someone's day, the video also has a whole section about like gratitude. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They really highlighted, thank you and
Mhm.
you're welcome. And again, just emphasizing how, like, even though they seem so simple, they're so important for just building these positive relationships.
Yeah, and it's funny. I think like as native speakers, sometimes we take those phrases for granted. But when you're learning a new language, you realize how powerful they can be
Right.
because you're actively choosing to acknowledge someone's kindness.
Yeah, it shifts your perspective from just kind of going through the motions to really being, more mindful and appreciative.
And I bet that mindfulness like carries over into other parts of communication too, right?
Hmm.
Like being more polite when you need to ask for clarification or if you need to apologize for something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they actually paired, excuse me, I'm sorry, with these visuals of people navigating like a crowded space or bumping into each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we're all sharing this space together. And a little politeness can just go so far to prevent those misunderstandings, keep things harmonious.
Did you notice how they used like sound effects too? Like excuse me, they had this little sound.
Yes, it's subtle, but it really gets across that idea of just gently getting someone's attention.
Yeah.
Like, it's not about being demanding, but more just like, signaling that you need to enter the
It's
conversation.
almost like giving them a heads up even before you start talking, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
So we've got like greetings, expressing emotions, making plans, gratitude, politeness. I mean, this video really covers a lot.
It does. It packs so much into such a short amount of time. And it's not just the number of topics, but it's like the depth
Right.
that it goes into with each one.
What were some other like aha moments for you when you were watching?
Um, well, there was this section on expressing opinions and engaging in discussions. And I love the way that they highlighted phrases like, I see your point or I agree. Because these phrases can help create a much more balanced and respectful dialogue.
Yeah, because I've definitely been in conversations where it feels like everybody's just waiting for their turn to speak. They're not actually listening to each other.
Right.
So I think using phrases like that would really help kind of shift that energy into something where there's that, mutual respect and understanding. It's not about, winning or losing an argument. It's about really connecting with the other person.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging different perspectives and just creating that space for genuine conversation.
It's funny. We often think about language as just a way to like convey information. But this video really emphasizes how it shapes relationships. It can help us create more positive interactions.
Absolutely. And by just being more mindful about the phrases that we're using,
Mm-hmm.
we can really impact the way we connect with others and communicate with each other.
So for our listener who's hoping to feel more confident speaking English, it seems like this video is a great place to start.
Mm-hmm.
But is it enough to just memorize those 50 phrases?
That's a great question. And I'd say, honestly, memorization is just that first step.
Mm-hmm.
What's really important is being able to understand the context and then apply those phrases in real life situations.
Right, so it's not just about saying the words, it's
Yeah.
about understanding the intention behind them and making
Yeah.
sure they sound natural when you use them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where the call to action in the video comes in. They really encourage viewers to practice using those phrases in their everyday life, to not just keep them locked away in a notebook.
It's like learning a new dance move. You can watch somebody do it 1,000 times, but until you actually get up and try it yourself, you're never really going to get it.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Oh, yeah. It's not just a list of phrases then. It's like you're getting a roadmap to better communication.
Yeah, exactly. They give you the tools, but they also show you like how to use them,
Yeah.
in different situations.
It's like they're saying, here's the key, now go out and explore.
Right. And that's where the real learning happens.
Yeah.
Like the more you use them in actual conversations, the more you start to pick up on all those little nuances
Mm-hmm.
and how they're used.
So for someone listening who really wants to feel more confident speaking English, what's the main takeaway here? Why should they care about these 50 common phrases?
Well, it all comes down to the power of language,
Yeah.
I mean, even phrases that seem really simple can completely change how we connect with people, how we express ourselves, even just how we navigate those everyday situations.
It's like they're giving you this secret decoder ring.
Mm,
So you can understand all those little cues and signals that people are sending.
right. And that understanding can make you so much more confident no matter what your fluency level is.
I've really enjoyed this deep dive. It's made me think a lot about these phrases that we use all the time
Yeah, me too.
and how important they really are.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that we shouldn't underestimate the power of simple language.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to leave our listeners with today?
Yeah, I would just say, as you go about your day today, pay attention to how often you hear these 50 phrases,
Mm-hmm.
both in your own conversations and just the conversations happening around you.
Ooh, that's a great challenge.
Yeah. And you might be surprised by how much they're used and
Right.
how much they really contribute
Yeah.
to, the flow of the conversation,
Right.
the
Yeah.
meaning.
It's like we've been speaking this secret language all along,
Hmm.
and now we've got the key to unlock it.
Exactly. And the better we understand it, the better we can connect with each other and really build those strong relationships.
So well said. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of common English phrases. We hope you've enjoyed it. And as always, stay curious. Keep exploring because you never know what you're going to discover out there.